Hey, let's go out to West Des Moines and a call from Chris. he happens to be Governor Chris Christie. Hey, Governor, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me back on.
All right. Hey, I understood you had an interesting plane ride last night, huh?
Yes, I did. I had Mark Halperin sitting in front of me and Rand Paul sitting next to me. So that's just the nature of Iowa in a presidential year, I guess.
And Senator Paul was on with us last hour. He said Halperin was apparently catching up on his Z's.
Yes, so was I, to be candid. I was catching up on mine, too. And sitting in the row behind me was Senator Grassley, and 3 rows behind him was Congressman Young. So it was quite the full plane last night from Washington, D.C. to Des Moines.
Doesn't that screw you up, falling asleep late at night like that, and then have to go check into the hotel?
Yes, it did. And it kept me up for like 3 hours once I got to the hotel because I slept for 2 hours on the plane. So, yeah, it wasn't, but it was completely involuntary, Dave. I was trying to stay awake. I just couldn't. I had a long day.
Understand. Hey, I got to ask you for
voluntarily.
Understand. Hey, I got to ask you, obviously, about pretty serious stuff here, and that's what happened in California. How do you view, it seems like as almost every hour goes by here, we learn more about this couple that shot up and killed all of these innocent people here in San Bernardino, and we're seeing CNN and NBC are reporting that the woman had apparently pledged some type of allegiance to an ISIS leader on her Facebook page, and the couple had been in contact with ISIS followers overseas. And that, what are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, Dave, on the first night that this happened, I watched about an hour and a half or so of the coverage in my home in New Jersey, and I turned to my wife and I said, "This is a terrorist act." It just comes from my experience as a prosecutor for 7 years. I know what these things look like and feel like. And that's why this experience that I have is so important in being president. The current president of the United States is still dithering over whether or not it's a terrorist act. I knew it the first night. No act of workplace violence occurs when somebody goes home, gets the wife, says, "Let's put on some tactical gear and get our semi-automatic weapons and drop our child off and go kill some people." I mean, that's just not the way it works. That was a planned attack. And here's the real bad thing for our country is because the president and some Republicans, by the way, in Congress, like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, have made us weaker by taking authority away from our intelligence communities to gather information. We're a weaker and more vulnerable country. And I'll tell you this, if a Center for the Developmentally Disabled in San Bernardino, California, is a target for ISIS, then that means every place in America is a target for ISIS. And we better get ready.
So if, you have some Democrats who say that, at least it appears from this early reporting, that this couple acquired the guns legally and they had a right to have these guns. So some of them are saying that for those who might be suspected of being connected to terrorism, perhaps we should not allow them to possess a gun. What do you say?
Well, listen, first off, how are you supposed to know if you're not doing the intelligence work I'm talking about? I mean, these are the same Democrats who voted to take intelligence powers away from our government to gather information and be able to connect these dots so you can make that kind of determination. I'll tell you, in New Jersey, we have a law that I signed into law that if you're on the terrorist watch list, you don't get to purchase a gun in New Jersey. But the fact is that how are you supposed to know? And folks in this country need to understand that our intelligence and our law enforcement communities need to be empowered to be able to protect us. And this president and Senator Paul and Senator Cruz, amongst others, have taken that authority away from this community. And it's just not right.
What do you say to people? So you're in a position of authority as a governor. You're running to become president of the United States. For those who look to people like you and they expect and basically demand something to happen, either you bomb the hell out of ISIS, on the other side, you take people's guns away, whatever it is, there's something, as you know, that sort of inside people that they want to see something happen, whether it's vengeance, whether it's a new law, whether it's something, but they want to see something happen. They don't want to see an event like this where all of these innocent people have been killed and, okay, fine, these 2 people have been killed, but they want more than that. So what was it, surveillance? Is that what that's what we have to get better at? Do we have to hunt down ISIS better? I mean, what is our call to action, or is there one?
Yes, both. I mean, first, we need to protect the homeland. Homeland security is the single most important responsibility of the President of the United States. If you cannot protect the lives and the safety of the American people, you will be a failure as a president and we'll be a failure as a nation. And so increasing our intelligence and law enforcement capabilities are the best tools we have to keep us safe at home. And then we need to partner with our NATO allies who have now also been attacked in France. And we need to partner with our Arab allies in the Middle East who are also being intimidated by ISIS to be able to put pressure on them where they live and where they breed in Iraq and in Syria. And you need to do both. It's not one or the other. It's both.
Going back to your prosecutor days, so obviously you know a little more kind of the inner workings of how this stuff works, but you singled out Ted Cruz and Rand Paul for their opposition to some of this surveillance. But I'm sure you would acknowledge this is where it gets tricky with some people. You know, I think they fear that if I go home tonight and Google ISIS, it's going to set up some kind of red flags, and all of a sudden Big Brother's listening in on my next phone call that I happen to make to my mom or whatever it is. I mean, how do we know that this stuff doesn't go so crazy and go so far that all of our personal individual rights are thrown out the window?
Well, this is the obscenity of what Senator Paul and Senator Cruz have been involved in, because you actually believe that the program that was just eliminated covered if you Googled ISIS. All that the metadata program did was to gather phone numbers that if they matched, if your phone number matched, let's say, with a phone call to a known terrorist outside the country, then and only then could the prosecutors and the intelligence community then go to court. You'd have to go to court and get a warrant to get your phone bill. Then once we examined your phone bills off a search warrant that was authorized by a sitting judge under the Fourth Amendment, then and only then, if we found more phone calls with you and suspected terrorists, then we could go back to the court and say, now we want to listen in on your conversations or view your emails. So this is ridiculous to think that somehow under the metadata program, we were looking at your Google searches, reading your emails to your coworkers, or listening to your phone call with your wife. None of that was going on. That's the kind of scare tactics that Senator Paul and Senator Cruz were involved in. And now they have egg all over their face because they now know that they've made America weaker and more vulnerable, and that we've been attacked, and that every time we're attacked until that metadata program is back in place, people are going to be wondering whether it could have prevented something.
Let's say this would have happened on your watch. I'm thinking of those images when we saw President Bush, reading that book to those little kids at the Florida school when 9/11 happened. So you're president when these shootings happened in California, and you're first asked by a reporter, whatever it is, in the Rose Garden or whatever, it just happened. What do you tell the American people when something like this happens, as we're still trying to learn what exactly just transpired?
What I would first do, before I made any comments to the American people, is to gather my best intelligence and law enforcement officers to brief me on exactly what they believe is going on and give me the information that they have available to them. And the good thing about me as president, Dave, is that I wouldn't need them to explain this stuff to me. I will have done it for 7 years of my life. And so we'd sit and have a conversation about what they knew and what did it look like. And if I had an instinct that I thought it was a terrorist act, I would say it. And I would say, based upon my experience, while it's not a final conclusion, based upon my experience as a prosecutor and as governor and as president, I believe this is a terrorist act. And we're going to proceed based upon that assumption unless it's proven differently. And I think that's the way you need to go about it. But you would, to be able to do that, you need to have the experience to be able to discern that information and make that decision. And no one else in the race has the experience that I have.
Are we going to find out there are more than just this couple involved?
We very well may. We may well find out that there are more than just this couple involved. Apparently, from some of the reports we're hearing this morning, they were very careful about eliminating a lot of their electronic trail. And so it's going to take a lot of hard work by the FBI, forensic work on their computers, which can be done. Even when they've deleted things, they leave remnants of things behind. We've got a great group at the FBI who can do this work, and we're going to let them do their work, but I would not be surprised to find out there were more people who were involved and or had knowledge of this attack.
I know you're on the campaign trail. We'll give you a moment here to plug your travels if you even have any idea where you're going to be in Iowa today.
Well, we're going to be in Jefferson later today, and then we're going to be in Fort Dodge this evening. So that's our schedule for today. And then tomorrow we're going to make our way further around Iowa. And in Jewell, Iowa, we're going to be, and then in Iowa Falls, and we'll end the night in Des Moines. And so we're going to be traveling all around the state. I think we're doing about 250 miles in the next 2 days. And I'm looking forward to meeting as many Iowans as I can. Ask them for their vote support in the caucuses on February 1st, because it's important to have a president who's going to know how to defend America and the American people.
Hillary Clinton's got a deal in Fort Dodge tonight. Maybe you guys can do a little joint event.
Well, listen, if Hillary Clinton would like to do a joint event in Fort Dodge this morning, I'm all in. I'm all in. Dave, could you broker that for us? Maybe give the Clinton campaign a call. Maybe we could do it, and maybe you could, be the moderator between the two of us.
We'll see what we can pull off here. I'm sure they're listening right now.
The power of WHO is significant. So
the true power. It's almost statewide, so they hear it everywhere.
Yes, sir.
All right, Governor, thanks for the time and safe travels. Appreciate the time today.
Dave, thank you for the time, and all the best to your listeners for a good holiday season.
All right, same to you. Thanks.